Good morning, everyone. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Selectmen of the town of New Canaan for Tuesday, October 13, 2022 at 8:32 a.m.
December.
What did I say?
October.
Not October, it's December.
It's the new October.
Where'd I get that from? Okay. This is a first item on our agenda is the minutes of the last meeting on November 29. Any comments or corrections?
None.
Not here.
I move we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Public comment. Members of the public are welcome to provide comments to the Board of Selectmen on the agenda topics scheduled for review and or vote. Comments may be submitted electronically. This is a hybrid meeting. If you wish to send comments by email, send to bosdistribution@newcananct.gov and we'll read them before the end of the meeting. Any comments from anybody from the public here? Alan?
One email question that came in.
We take comments. We don't take questions.
Well, it's
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Just says, according to today is by Betty Lavastik. According to today's Board of Selectmen agenda, New Canaan DPW will enter into various contracts on behalf of the New Canaan ice rink. The total amount, agenda's 12 items 12 through 16 with contingency totals of $157,945,000. When will the New Canaan ice rink reimburse DPW for these expenses?
Okay, that's a comment. When we take up the ice rink, we'll talk about that.
I just, can we just also add to the agenda selectmen's comments?
Are you moving that?
Yes.
I
Is there
second
any
that.
reason why they're not there or?
We had a full agenda and
Okay.
and
All right. Let's just, I'd make a motion to add the selectmen's comments.
I second that. And Tucker, I assume that wasn't an oversight. That was part of the process. You want to just describe the process of getting the agenda?
Agenda compilation of the agenda is many people have had a hand in it. And I always
My apologies to you for
putting a 1,000-piece puzzle together
Yeah,
in 10
right.
minutes, but at the end of the day, I get it with a lot of different comments and I just put it together as I was instructed.
So I second Selectman Corbett's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Okay.
would also like to amend the agenda to include an agenda item with respect to the Utilities Commission, which is, I would like to have a discussion, not necessarily a vote, but a discussion about the reconstitution and repopulation of the Utilities Commission. We're all aware of the West School cell tower issue. That's just a tipping point, I think, with respect to the Utilities Commission. I think it's something we need to go back to and consider. It's pursuant to Town Ordinance, Chapter 12 specifically, according to the code. So I'm throwing that out there as a motion.
I'll second.
I don't think we're ready for that discussion. So
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
who's up? Albie, you're up for 2 items.
Morning.
Morning, Chief.
Good morning, all.
Morning.
Yes, we have fire department has 2 items. We would like to approval for a blanket PO, increase it to $15,000 for Northeastern fire apparatus. They are the authorized manufacturer's authorized repair dealer for 4 of our engines. So we had a few additional repairs and like to increase that blanket to $15,000, which is money that's available in the budget.
Any questions?
Is there another organization that works on the other engines, or this is 1, 2, 4, and 7? Is that
Yeah, we
cover all of them?
currently use 3 to 4 vendors for the apparatus repairs.
And do they have blanket?
2 of them have blankets currently,
Okay.
Hudson Valley and Northeastern Fire Apparatus.
And the Northeastern Fire has how much, and we're taking it to 15? Is that it?
This year was set at roughly 9,000. I don't have the actual number, but it was under 10,000.
Okay, so we're just increasing it to
Correct.
15. Okay. Okay, thank you.
No further questions?
None here.
I move that we approve the request from the fire chief for the increase in the blanket purchase order in the amount of $15,000 for the miscellaneous repairs by Northeastern Fire. Second,
Second here.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Fire Department's second item is the purchase of personal protective equipment. There's two quotes, the total not to exceed 21,000. Unfortunately, they don't put shipping on the quote, so there is a small contingency in there for shipping. These funds are available through capital. And the second funds are actually reimbursement that we've been receiving from the state since July for responding on the Merritt Parkway. So we're using those funds to purchase the volunteer contingents PPE. So that's where the second funding source is coming from. So two quotes for not to exceed 21,000.
Question?
This one, sorry, totally fine with that. I just note that in the contracts, it also includes the same amount from Firematic for the 9,274. So we'll just have to, we can't have them in both places. So we, on the contracts less than 10,000. So we'll just take one out there.
Correct. The second quote before after it was put into the selectmen meeting came in just $800 cheaper. We were just over 10,000 when I originally came to the plan to come to the selectmen for that. So they revised the quote and it did come down, but shipping is still not included on that one.
Yeah, no, that's fine. We'll just approve it one place, but not
Okay.
the other. Just take it out of the contracts list.
Okay.
So, okay, great. Thank you.
No questions here.
I move we approve the request from the fire chief to purchase personal protective equipment from Firematic Supply Inc. in an amount not to exceed $21,000 as just explained by the chief. Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief. Have a good day. Mr. Kimes.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are we? Looking for approval for the Emergency Management Performance Grant. This is a continuing grant item which helps offset some of the costs of emergency management. It comes down through FEMA and then channeled through the state. There are two parts to it. One is the authorization to apply for the grant, which is done by population. So our maximum allocation is $20,233. And then they've also put an extra for PPE of $1,011.65. And the second part to this request is we need to have an authorizing resolution saying that Kevin is capable and authorized by the town to enter into the grant request with the state of Connecticut. So specific language is the town of New Canaan may enter into and deliver to the state of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection, Division of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, all documents it deems necessary and appropriate, and that Kevin, as the first selectman, is authorized to deliver and execute those documents on behalf of the town. We just need that that authorization as part of the package.
I'm confused, Russ. The 21,245, is that for the you mentioned PPE as well as
Yeah, so typically
is that part of this?
Typically, it's the amount that they provide is typically used against salaries, and that's what we've used it historically for, is to offset the stipends or the off for full-time, part-time. But this year they have added an additional $1,011 eligible for PPE as a result of the pandemic. So we are going to also apply for that to maximize our grant.
Any questions?
So how does that work with item number 4 with the PPE request that Albie just?
We're going to have to see, I'm going to have to go through what our expenditures have been and future shall be to maximize our benefit from that. If we don't get the full 1,000, because, you know, emergency management hasn't necessarily purchased PPE, other departments within the town have. And we've also been fortunate. We've drawn down PPE from the state stockpiles in the past year or so. But in essence, well, it's going to be some digging around to see, just to make sure we have the appropriate paperwork to back it up. But
And this is state, not federal. Right?
it is federal, but it comes through the state. So the state is the one who's the agent that's actually divvying it out through DEMIS.
And we've maxed out all of our FEMA emergency related.
So that's a separate thing, which is the FEMA public assistance grants, which we have just received the $500,000, thanks to Bill, his last application. And then it's sitting with the state's vendor right now for our January to June period for COVID relief as well, for the vaccine site and the testing sites.
So how much are we talking about there?
It's in the neighborhood of 70,000 thereabouts, because there wasn't as much equipment purchase. It's what they are willing to, or what the public assistance grants guidance is it's unanticipated or extra expenses, right? So full-time salaries don't count, but any overtime we incur, the nurses that we hire, those sorts of things. And then it's also, we can't obviously double apply for grants. So I know Jen has been working separately for at least 2 of the nurses, which I've since removed from RPA request, but that should be in. I'm just waiting for the state to sign off on it, and then it's moving forward.
Good, thank you.
No further questions. I move we approve the request from the Emergency Management Director to submit a grant application in an amount of $21,245 and to authorize the first selectman to execute the application to reimburse the town for expenses incurred by the emergency management operations. Do I have a second?
Second here.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And thanks to Greg, who helped with the process. So
Thank you,
happy
Russ.
to have him on board.
Mr. Mann. You got a bunch of items here.
I counted over 20. So sorry. Good morning.
Morning.
The first item is a request to enter into a contract for design of accessible pedestrian signals in town. Our community impact officer, Officer Bertulli, I think she's on with us. She brought this to our attention as a need, did a study and a report to the police commission. And in essence, what it is in 8 locations in the downtown area, we'd like to change our pedestrian head signals to be an audible pedestrian signal, meaning that there'll be an audible beep to help people who are low vision find the signal itself. And then there's a signal after you press the button and the signal starts. There's a signal that it tells you to cross, and then it increases in rapid nature to the point where it tells you that, in essence, you need to be across the street at that point in time. She also thinks that it might be a good thing for we're having a lot of distracted walking, believe it or not. So everyone's on their phone walking and actually walking out into the street. So given the fact that we would like to, not have our pedestrians hit, this signal will actually help them as well, because it'll tell them that, hey, you're meandering in the crosswalk, you need to get across the street. But it's something that would be forthcoming regardless, especially since it's considered an accessibility issue. We went to our traffic consultant, Fuss and O'Neill, and asked them to look at the 8 specific locations in town. And they came forward with an estimated fee of $32,750 to look at them, give us a design for each one, and then be a liaison with the Connecticut DOT, especially since traffic signals fall underneath the Office of Traffic Authority from the state. So we'd like to enter into this contract with them. And then at that point in time, they'll come back with an estimate of construction as to how much it will cost us to retrofit each one. And then they'll all be accessible and they'll all be uniform. So when you get to a specific signal in town, in the downtown area, you'll know exactly what to expect.
That seems like a lot. 32,000 just for
$4,000 each location when you get down to 8 locations.
But I mean, we have this in New York, Fifth Avenue, whatever. I mean, the beeping.
That's correct.
I don't. Maybe I'm not getting it. It seems like a lot just for the design.
It's $4,000 a location. It's not that. It's pretty. That's pretty good, to be perfectly honest with you. When we were doing an RFP, the estimates of just the design estimates themselves were in the $9,000, $8,000 to $9,000 range.
So we did an RFP.
We did not. We went to them specifically. They had been working with us on our rapid rectangular flashing beacon installations, both at South and Gower, and then working with us there. And their pricing actually was almost half of what everyone else that we had went for pricing with. So we decided that we would stay with them. They have an excellent rapport with the DOT and the people that we would need to speak to through this entire process. They have their finger on the pulse, and we would like to stay and continue that relationship with these.
Don't get me wrong. I think this is a
Okay.
good idea. I think it's long overdue. We'll get to ADA in Selectmen's comments
Mhm.
because I have a number of questions with respect to that. But I'm very supportive of this initiative.
Good morning, everyone. This is Officer Bertolli. Just wanted to say something, if you don't mind. So yeah, New Canaan is one of the only towns in the area that don't have the audible pedestrian signals. And as Tiger mentioned, this is the future. Eventually, they're all going to have to be updated. But I noticed as doing my research, all of the crosswalk signals in town are not uniform. So you have some that have a hollow hand, some that flash. So it's really confusing, not just for the blind, it's for the people that are distracted, the juveniles, the bicyclists. So I just think, as my job as community officer, I just saw it as a public safety issue. And with the rise of pedestrian injuries and fatalities, I just thought it'd be a benefit to all of the community.
Thank you. Just a
Sure.
just a couple questions. So one, the 32,750, that's just for the design.
It's the
correct?
design and through
What's our-
through bidding.
Sorry. And then do you have an estimate of what the
They were
cost
estimating
was?
around $18,000 a location, but they'll all be location specific, meaning that because
Okay.
as Nicole mentioned, some are partway there, some are not there at all.
Right.
So it really depends upon each location itself, but they
Okay.
were talking when we spoke initially about an $18,000 to $20,000 range for an upgrade at each location.
At each location.
At each location,
Okay.
that's correct.
And
But
there's 8.
There's 8 that we're looking at, that we're targeting. That's correct.
Okay.
Predominantly in the downtown area, except for one at the intersection of South and Farm, since we do have some students of low vision
Mhm.
that travel back and forth.
Mhm.
So that intersection as well. That's a high pedestrian traffic area.
And
so
what's the timing on this then?
like them to work through the winter on this project, and then I have monies slated in the budget for construction for next year. So they'd work through till July, and then from July onward, we would move forward with a contract, obviously with a bid contract to the selectmen, and then move forward with each location.
Okay. And one last question.
Sure.
So the sound, the audible sound that it emits, do we have to get any sort of residential comments on that?
Usually, well, you can change it from it's high
Yeah.
down all the way to 0 to nothing. What happens is you install it, and then you try to make sure that from about 12 feet out from the signal itself, it dissipates into the background noise.
Okay.
So they're actually, each one is individually programmed. I've already spoken to the resident at the intersection of South and Farm, because it's
Right.
probably the closest one. And then I got a call from the resident across the street. I returned the call, but they never called back. But I imagine it's about the exact same
Sure.
thing. And we mentioned the fact that we would go out there and in essence, tweak each one, adjust each one to its location.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Tiger, is this an ADA compliance issue?
In the end, yes, it is.
So why, I thought we only own 2 of the traffic lights in town. The state, why isn't the state responsible for making their traffic
The
signals?
state has their own agreement with the Department of Justice, and when they get to the traffic signal, they will then upgrade it to us. They have a multi-phase approach to the signal repairs.
So shouldn't the state be paying for these?
We can look to the state. We discussed it with the state, and the state said it wasn't part of their programs at present. And when we asked what their schedule would be, they could not give us a schedule as to what it would be. Our thought is to come forward with a design and then approach them again with the thought
I
of,
see our state representative is here time of day. Sounds like if the state has ADA compliance issues with their traffic lights, they ought to fund it.
well, if they have an individual agreement as to how long it takes, and if they have a program in essence to upgrade their signals as they go, that's considered.
How many of the signals do we own? 1 or
We
2?
own 2,
Two.
Park and Elm and Park and Pine.
Right. So we ought to have that discussion with the state.
It was part of the process. We started the process already. We were told that they did not have it in their plans. we feel strongly that we should go forward with it. So that's why we're bringing it to your attention.
Any further questions?
None here.
I move we approve the request from Public Works to enter into a contract with Fuss and O'Neill in the amount of $32,750 for design of the accessible pedestrian signals at 8 intersections in town. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Selectmen.
Thanks, Nicole. This next one is a little bit easier. It's a purchase of a dump truck. Most and his men have been looking through various options as to replacement for our two-wheel dump truck in town. We went to Freightliner of Hartford. This is under a state bid. And they came back at a price of $233,493.31. They put a caveat in there of possible cost surcharges as they build the unit of $5,000 for a total of $238,493.31. We're looking at selling our existing unit on Gov Deals. Actually, almost closed on it yesterday. The Freightliner itself was going to give us $3,500 for the unit. We felt that the unit was worth more than that. We thought it was worth up to around $10,000. Gov Deals came in at $9,300. So as part of this process, I'd like the authority to sell this one unit that we have, unit 26, associated with it, and then bring the monies back into our budget. Right now, tonight, we have a transfer of funds set in front of the Board of Finance to transfer the difference. We had $220,000 in our budget. We're looking to transfer $13,493.31 into this line item to be able to purchase this vehicle, and then take the savings from the trade-in and put it back into the account that we had to take it from, if you follow the mathematics on that. So right now we'd like approval for the purchase.
What's the age of the
It's a 2004. It's got over 60,000 miles and
60,000
driving around in a circle, soaking wet. Yeah. And it, in essence, my records only go back to 2010. Moses' records go back much further. And from 2010 onward, it was somewhere on the order of a couple hundred snowstorms plus hurricanes, things of that nature. So you're talking 20, 30 storms a year, 10 plus 600. So.
And it's in the budget.
It's in the budget. That's why I mentioned we have $220,000 in the budget. We're having to transfer $13,000 out of another budgetary item that we have to make up the difference.
Where are you taking that 13,000 from?
Taken out of the 2023 dump truck purchase, but we're looking at a different type of vehicle for that. So we're feeling that cost will actually come down from the 220. So we should be fine between the two budgets. We'll be able to buy the two vehicles that we want and need.
Okay.
I move we approve the request from Public Works to enter into a contract with Freightliner of Hartford in the total amount of $238,493.31 for the purchase of a new two-wheel drive Freightliner dump truck as described by Tiger. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. This next item is a design contract with Cabezas DeAngelis for $14,500 for the 2/3 stretches of Seminary Street that we do not have sidewalks on. Right now, we have sidewalks that come from Park Street down to 66 Seminary, then it stops, then it begins again for a small piece right in front of Owen Oak Lane, and then stops again, and then finishes down to Elm Street. We've had requests to do this ever since the original installation back in 2007. We had work on other areas of town, other areas we felt were, maybe a little bit more pressing. The sidewalk stretch on Mead Street, Richmond Hill, and Grove Street, those three. So this is another piece where we'd like to tie it all in together so that if you lived in that area, you could walk down to the market, or vice versa. If you lived in the area, you could come up to Town Hall. So we're looking at a design price of survey and design price of $14,500 to complete these legs. Then we'll go out to bid and then come back with a construction project.
Questions?
So this is the first, I think, that we're seeing sidewalks 2023, right? So have you fully expended what was in 2022?
The number is based upon the calendar year of when we think we'll do the work. It's not necessarily the fiscal year of the monies that are being expended, but
okay. So this is a project that begins when? in
This project
2026.
is, well, he'll start the design, start the survey work sometime in January, February, when he finishes some of the other survey work he has for us, and then design through. We have others in the queue. So the thought is that if we can get to this by the end of next year, that'd be
Right.
fantastic. If we can't, we'll get into then the following year. But we have Millport Avenue, Lakeview Avenue. Lakeview Avenue is a complete design and construction. Pine Street is a complete design and construction. Those are in queue before this. But
Okay.
I want it as it rolls off the survey side into the design side, I'd like to then tack up the survey side and then roll back into design, and then everything rolls into construction after that. So this is queuing this up or teeing this up for later next year, possibly in 24, early 24.
Early,
Is the thought.
possibly early 24 to
Yeah,
actually install.
Depending upon the difficulty of the design, the areas that were not done are quite difficult. If you can imagine, if you drive down there, you'll see that how built it is.
Yeah.
There's stone walls in the area. There's a lot of plantings. There's a lot of improvements that the residents have made. So the areas of concern are quite difficult to mitigate. So there'll be some discussions with the property owners. That's why I don't want to say that it'll be at the end of next year. But
So
that
this
is the
goes
goal.
back to 2007.
2007, 8, we basically built what we could. Yeah, at the time, we built what we could and extended to where it was feasible. But back then we also didn't have the budget that we had at present for sidewalk installation. It was much less. It was a much reduced number. So we built what we could.
We had a
upgraded-
sidewalk PMP, right? Kind of.
We have a sidewalk pay. Yeah, we have a SMP, a sidewalk management plan, or SMIP, sidewalk management improvement plan. Yes, and this is one of the ones where it's a segment in town that is on the POCD to have us complete, and it's.
Do you have an index number for sidewalks like we do for?
I do. It was in the
roads?
70s. I'll have to update it for you, but it was in the 70s when we started, in the 75, 76 range.
Right.
But we've made marked strides in that regard, and we've been trying to replace a lot of the bituminous walks that are failing first, and then go forward to the
Well,
others.
the farm road, that's been a huge,
Correct. We'll look to
success.
go across the street. It's either going to go across the street in front of Saks or from from south to 106.
Right.
That stretch is all done as well from South School downward. Will depend upon which side of the road we go on, but those are the next looks as far as in and around the school. And then we've got some in the downtown area that we've got to take care of. Specifically on Cherry Street, from say South Avenue to Park, or on East Avenue from Main Street down to at least as far as Cherry, if not further down to say Summer Street. That stretch of walk needs to be replaced. But that's on a state road. That makes it a little bit more difficult
Right,
as far as
right.
improvements go.
I move we approve the request from Public Works to enter into a contract with Cabezas De Angelis in the amount of $14,500 for a survey and design of the completion of sidewalks on Seminary Street from Park Street to Elm. Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So this next item is for the Playhouse Theater. As we mentioned previously, we were looking to do a design build, roll this contract forward with Alden Bailey. This is the first phase of it, being where we're going to come in to do some interior demolition and some abatement work associated with it. Alden Bailey came in with a price of $134,436, added on $25,000 for an abatement allowance for a total of $159,436, with a 10% contingency, comes to a total of $175,381. I reached out to the designer, Carl Rothbart, one about the price, and two about doing it in this nature, and he was very much in favor of both. The price is a very good price from Alden Bailey, and the fact that this is the next.
Did we
phase.
bid this out, Tiger?
We did not. This is where we talked about going with a design build
Okay.
previous. We feel that Alden Bailey is an excellent contractor for this type of work. He's proven himself in other areas of town. He's been proven flexible and easy to work with, and also cost conscious, which is very
So
important.
their expertise is restoration.
Yes.
of historic-
This type of work is in their bailiwick. So we'd like to go forward with this first portion of the work. This will open up the area and allow the architects and the engineers to get in and take a deeper dive and look, and then finalize the design, and then come back forward with the interior fit out for the playhouse itself.
Tiger's doing all the talking. Do you have anything
Sorry.
to say, Bill?
Well, as Tiger mentioned, this is design build, so we will be coming probably more often to you about this project to get approvals as we go along. And I kind of like that because then it keeps you guys up to date on what's happening. This is a good major part of the demolition phase on the theater level and the abatement stage. Second to this would be the abatement of the basement, the boiler, air handler, and that's going to come probably in the spring once we start getting upstairs. We feel very good about the allowance on the abatement. The estimates came in at about $75,000, and Alden Bailey was able to engineer it down a little bit and said that he could do it. And they're doing it in-house, they're all licensed and certified to do it. So we have some savings there. I think this is a good fit.
We don't have much choice. We're anyway. Any more further questions?
You mentioned the abatement allowance and so forth. So you have line items for each of these in terms of the Playhouse budget. And so the restoration piece that came from Alden Bailey, that was within whatever you had in the budget for that piece in terms of the gutting of the main floor and the second floor.
In the overall project, it's all part of it, yes. And we feel like we're still very much on track to be on budget.
Okay, so you didn't have a line item for
we didn't have
this
a specific
particular
line item because we just got through with the engineers doing all the analysis and testing. We did know there was going to be some abatement there, and we feel very good about where we are. We didn't think it was going to be in the millions of dollars. We didn't think it was that bad because there was a lot of work done.
Right.
And keep in mind, it's two gigantic warehouses. Basically, it's a theater, so there wasn't a whole lot in there. Most of the abatement stuff is retained really just to the plumbing.
Okay, thank you.
But we're basically blowing up the projection room and the balcony seating.
Right. The inside, but the balcony's coming out, and the projection booth is all coming out, and that's going to be the future home of the new ADA bathrooms and elevator.
Okay, I move to approve the request from Public Works to enter into a contract with Alden Bailey Restorations in the amount of $175,381 as described by Bill for the Playhouse interior demolition and abatement services. Second?
Second here.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so the next item.
You want to take the other Playhouse item and then move to the
Sure.
Waiting House?
That'll be easy.
The next Playhouse item is actually for the seating. As you all recall that Cinelab had a responsibility for raising funding, in which they have. And these are the seats that
When you say that they have, can you just update us on them?
$2 million.
$2 million.
Okay.
As of,
They were required to raise 1.5 and it hit 2.
Good. Okay, good.
and we have that in escrow. So
Okay.
these are seats that they use in their other theaters. This is I'll admit it's a little different for us because it's an overseas purchase. We're managing their funding, and we're going to manage the purchase of this because at the end of the day, the town is going to have ownership of these seats. So we would like the approval, and it's contingent on legal review. I've been working with our attorneys about how we execute something overseas like this. It's doable. It's just some logistic questions that we're trying to get resolved. These are the seating that they'd like. We've been working with.
What are the logistic questions? Issues?
Shipping.
Just shipping?
Shipping
Just
from
shipping.
Norway to here, and the challenges in today's world with shipping.
And these are high-end seats, correct?
They're not, sorry, so everybody has exception that these are big overstuffed chairs like in your living room, like they're not that big. These are a little bit more slimline. They do recline. They're very comfortable. They're built-in tables so that you have a cocktail, or if you have your drink or your popcorn, whatever, you have a table to put it on. They're very nice. So they are not your average, seats that you just throw out when you're tired. These are actually nice seats.
Is it like airliner seats or?
No, they're very stylish.
Okay,
But they're not the lazy boy version that you see
Right,
in some of
right.
the big box theaters.
Right, because we don't have the room.
And also, this is just a look. I mean, these are going to be very comfortable. They've used them in their other theaters. So, and they, as you know, they were involved in the Soho House brand, and they use these in all of their theaters in those buildings.
They're kind of contemporary looking with a vintage kind of vibe to it.
So you could sleep in them, Bill?
Sleep anywhere next. That's a good, that's a fair dollar right there. So this one's that I'd go, we've been working with ski seating through this whole process. It's very interesting what's involved with theater seating. We had to take elevations of every single row. They're custom designed. Each seat's going to have its spot to go in that theater.
How many seats have we got? What's the
It's gonna be
capacity of it?
approximately 100 seats on each side.
100 seats on each side.
So we went down from the 150 seats per side to 100. And some of that space on seating is to meet all the ADA requirements. So we lost some seating on overall, but we do have now seating.
We expect increased usage because of the, you know, the
Well, that's
newness.
all. We hope
That's
the
that's
theater
that's
is-
that's the hope, right? Yeah.
And I think their philosophy also is to run the shows a little bit more frequently to, if it's a good show, obviously keep it going. So as I said, I mean, this seating company is very interesting on how much they're involved in the planning stages and laying all that. And they are going to actually come over and visit us from the other side of the pond there and install them. So that they take full responsibility on everything.
When will that take place?
Well, the seating build out is about a 5-month period to build them. And then transportation, I couldn't say for sure. Right now, it's a little rough. We're hoping 5 months things all should go down. The world gets a little better. And it may take a couple months to get them. Our backup is that we still have the old seats in just in case. So,
That's about $1,000 a seat. Is that,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Roughly,
that's
yeah.
about right.
Yeah, roughly about $1,000 seats.
Okay.
No further questions.
I'm good.
I move that we approve the request of Public Works to enter into a contract with Ski Seating AS in the total amount of $255 for the purchase of theater seats, freight and labor to install seats in the theater as described by Bill. Second,
Second.
all in favor? Aye. Back to the Waveney House.
Yeah.
Restoration.
All right, thank you. So this is to bring forward, in essence, phase 2 and phase 3 of the work at Waveney House for both the bathroom phase and the elevator phase. Alden Bailey was our low bidder at the time of bid. They've in essence held their pricing.
When do they bid?
The bid was in April of 2020, April 16 of 2020. They've in essence held their pricing for these two phases standard or set. So we'd like to go forward. The combined total is $2,266,750. We've added a 10% contingency of $226,675 for a total of $2,493,425. The Board of Finance and the Town Council both approved this funding back a month or so ago. The funding for it, Alden Bailey did excellent work for us. It was October 11th. They did excellent work on phase 1. They've done excellent work on the roof. They've done work elsewhere for us. And we feel very confident that they'll give us a nice product in the end and then bring Waveney up to current standards.
So Tiger, I got to ask.
Absolutely.
We had an ADA investigation by the DOJ. And they came back and said, you've got problems at Waveney, which Alden Bailey, we entered into a contract a couple of years ago, I think $700,000-800,000. Some of the ramps, other aspects of Waveney were not up to ADA compliance. Your thoughts on that?
Well, thank you. So
I'm asking because my constituents are asking me like, what's going on with?
It's an interesting situation. So we started our process prior to any complaint from the DOJ as far as our design process and our work through and our what we had going forward as to what the improvements needed to be for Waveney. We did the first phase. And then we were told by the council and the Board of Finance that no other monies were going to be coming forward without a final plan for Waveney. So we had to come up with a final plan for Waveney, and we're coming forward with the last set of work to bring Waveney into compliancy. in between that situation, the DOJ came in and did a site visit back in May of last year, and then gave us a site report or a preliminary site report that we had a meeting with, whereby they come with their preliminary site report. We come back with our comments and questions on it. They go back to their architects, and then they come back forward with another discussion upwards to a settlement decision. The interesting situation is that here it was reported that one of the ramps was non-compliant. The photo in the ramp was the incorrect photo. Unfortunately, it was actually an area where we had some trees that were inside the envelope that had to be trimmed back. And we also didn't have accessible signage showing that this is the accessible ramp. The ramp in question went from the west porch out to the patio, not from the front of the house onto the west porch. And that was not part of the construction. And that aspect was the fact that they felt that there should be edge protection on either side, since there's a greater than a 4-inch difference from coming from the porch out to the patio. Our concerns at the time was that it was going to be a tripping hazard to have this 4-inch high curb sitting on the outside of this ramp. It necessarily could be a tripping hazard. They came back and said that it's in essence required. And we said, okay, then we'll put railings up instead. We were trying to continue and keep the vista out from the porch out to the back without having additional railings in the way. But that was one of our concerns, was adding something for one aspect and then causing a concern for another. But in our discussions that we had in our meeting with them, we said, absolutely, if that's your feeling on it, we'll put railings in, and we're going to put railings in, even though they're not required. We're going to put railings in because we don't want to have an edge piece. We'd rather just do the entire piece so no one trips or no one falls off, and there's access out to the back patio. And we'll keep those railings very similar to what is there existing on the now, that black and gold railing, which is quite attractive. In the back on the loge, when they came out to look at the loge, from the main portion of Waveney, from the main floor of Waveney out to the loge, there was a 1-step difference. And then from the loge down to the patio, there was a 1-step difference. During the design and during the discussions with the building committee, we came through with 3 separate options as to how to address the difference in grades between the house and the patio and the loge itself. And how are we going to do that? One was to basically build a ramping system off of both doors that would slope down into the middle. It was quite difficult to build and quite unattractive, and then would leave the loge basically unusable because there wouldn't be one level surface in it. It would be level, but everything would be at a grade, as it pitched forward. We looked at another couple of options as far as making a one long ramp and then closing off a door. And then actually Steve Benko, God bless him, came forward with the idea, which was brilliant, of putting an interior ramp coming out from the loge, okay, from the house onto the loge, and then an interior ramp that led to both sides. And we would, in essence, raise the loggia up the 1 step to then be level with the main house itself. That created a 2-step difference coming from the loge now onto the patio. That had to be addressed. At that point in time, we said, well, if we do this interior ramping, we can do 2 interior ramps and lead them out to both sides. And you, in essence, can come out, walk the stairs down, or come in through the center and out. It'll allow us to actually utilize the loge for the bar, which was predominantly what it was used for at the time, and then give us access into the patio. The problem with that is that if we extended the ramp to its full extent, it would actually basically extrude out into the walking path from both sides coming down, if you imagine, right? So it's a 1/10 grade. Okay. That means 1 inch every 10 inches. Okay. 1 foot every 10 feet, or 1 in 12. Okay. Basically an additional 2 inches. That brought us out into the staircases on both sides, which would then be a tripping hazard on that side. So our feeling was a 1 in 10 ramp with a railing would then allow us to keep the ramps behind the accessible walkway coming out on either side, not present a tripping hazard, and then fit architecturally with the building, given the fact that it's, historic in nature. It's a 1 in 10, needed to be a 1 in 12. The DOJ comes back and says it's a 1 in 10. It's a 1 in 10, needs to be a 1 in 12. That's fine. you know, why and what were your reasons for it. Then we explained our reasoning for it. We explained also our reasoning for not extending the railing out, because if we extend the railing out, they start to be an issue with someone coming down the stairs, hits their hip on the railing because you don't see it. It's just protruding out. So we couldn't necessarily comply with getting the ramp out to the full extent and then put the railing out. We could get the railing to go full or the ramp to go full, but we one or the other, couldn't do both. So we explained that to them and said that it was technically infeasible. The attorney said that she would go back to the architect, understood the situation. When they were out there, they understood the amount of work that we had done, understood exactly what we had done on a historic preservation nature of buying the exact same tile from Italy to being brought forward, spending $400,000 or so on this back patio to try to make it work and stay architecturally significant for what the building is. And they needed to go back to the architect and then come back forward and say, okay, and they'll either accept or deny, but we feel that they'll accept the fact that the ramps are a little bit steeper, but then we'll extend the railings out a little bit further and then make the railings fully compliant. Right now, they only have a 6-inch overlap. They need to have a foot overlap, but that was the exact same thing. So there's nuances inside every single.
So I get that. I mean, you know, trying to preserve the architectural integrity of a very old building, a wonderful building, the crown jewel of this town, and complying with ADA is difficult. I get that. My point is, you know, putting my lawyer hat on, you know, we're going to be paying Alden Bailey Restoration, let's call it $2.5 million. Within the four corners of that contract, are there representations and warranties on behalf of Alden Bailey, the contractor, that whatever we do is going to be ADA compliant? And if it's not, we, Alden Bailey, are going to bear the cost of that, the liability.
He builds what's on the plans, as long as he builds it to what's on the
So
plans.
they don't do an independent analysis of
The architect is
It's the
responsible for that.
okay.
That was part of it.
Somebody needs to be responsible for the lack of compliance to ADA. I know ADA is difficult.
We had ADA consultants on the project with Lee Cromwell's firm. So, you know, I think all this, he's trying to explain the nuances of complying with it.
We tried to make.
I understand it's difficult.
We tried
But
to make
believe
this
me, I'm not an expert by any means.
We're allowed the technical and feasibility situation for a situation such as this. We have a similar situation at the firehouse where we
had 109 violations, separate violations, I believe, in the DOJ report.
That's correct.
And somebody needs to be accountable for those violations.
That's fine.
Part of it's the people who built Dunning Stadium 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Non-compliant. Go get.
I get.
So anyway,
I think it's five different locations. The paddle hut, you know.
I mean, there were certain ones in there where when we spoke to them about certain situations, they were understandable. At present, the recreation department is not accessible to an individual with a disability, right? But we've made an accommodation since the recreation department has been there to then anyone with a disability. We meet them on the first floor in the library and discuss their concerns or what they might have, help them buy a pass, whatever they need from the recreation department. We make that accommodation.
And we're going to put in an elevator, which we've
Correct.
talked about ad nauseum, and it's the right thing to do. I just want to make sure that the elevator works. I don't want to put in an elevator and then have DOJ come back and say, you know, you're 2 inches off on this, you're a half an inch off on that. I mean,
we shared the plans. When the DOJ came in May of last year, we already had the plan set. So the concerns that they had, we shared the plan set with them. We shared every plan that we had with them, and the majority of things that they had, we had already had plans for.
and we've documented all that.
Yes.
Going forward. Okay, good. I just want to make sure, you know, this is a lot of money. Let's just make sure we get it right, and that we don't have DOJ coming back in and, you know.
so the point of the restoration work at Waveney is to convert a private home to a public building.
Right.
So the bathrooms are designed to decommission basically all the other 8 bathrooms on the first and second floor, except for one family bathroom on the first floor.
Right.
The bathrooms are essential to make it a public building, given the number of people that occupy it.
They're a disaster anyway. They need to be.
And the elevator is essential for any public building. So, any further?
Just a
Questions?
comment, as I understand it, Tiger, it's actually an iterative process with the DOJ in terms of they came out with their findings, you've responded back, they're looking at their own architects and so forth. And so it'll be back and forth and they'll have a final report. When do you expect that?
We were hoping for an interim read on the on some of this issues that we had so that we could budget for them.
Right.
And they understood our budgeting process and understood exactly when that happened. So that was a 3 to 4 weeks that they had said we're approaching that limit now. But then the overall was at least 3 to 4 months before they come back with a settlement agreement.
Okay.
But again, we had shared at the time of the original concern, we had shared every plan that we had. They still have to come out and do a site review. Then they come out and do a site review the plans that we have, review what we've got. And according to our consultants, our review was some people get a book. We got several pages, right? That we were far and away one of the better municipalities that they've ever worked with as far as our compliance issues and our compliancy throughout town. So we think we're doing quite well.
I'm delighted to hear that, Tiger.
Thank you.
Yeah, the town of Westport went through the same thing. So Birch and Moses has gone through the same thing with Westport. And also Westcog has hired a consultant to advise all the 17 cities and towns in Westcog, because this is something that is an issue for especially small towns that don't have the resources to address these issues.
So I mentioned when they come back with their final report, that's the time we can say, okay, gee, maybe we've gotten this wrong. That's when you can go back to an architect or a designer or what have you. But in the interim, this is an iterative process going back and forth, and you're doing your best to get through it all. So appreciate.
Yeah, I don't
that.
think it should be any implication that Lee Cromwell's firm didn't do their work properly. I mean, a lot of this stuff just has to be worked through and understanding how you have to, especially with a historic building, make some adjustments so that
That's correct.
Good.
Any further questions?
No.
I move we approve the request from Public Works to enter into a contract with Alden Bailey Restoration in the total amount of $2,493,425 for the construction of a second floor ADA accessible bathroom, which is really a large multi-purpose bathroom, and the installation of an elevator from the first to the second floor, as described by Tiger and Bill, I guess.
Second
You
here.
were supposed to present this, so.
Can I just
pretty.
Can I just ask one more question? Forgive me. How much of the 2.4 million, how much is the elevator? Do you know offhand?
1.6 portion.
1.6 is the elevator? Okay, thank you.
The timing of this, Tiger, Bill?
Timing is immediately,
I mean,
as far as we're already gearing up to relocate everybody upstairs over there.
Right.
For demo on first of the year.
Great.
We booked off some time in February. We want to slow to do some additional work where we can at public end. The elevator is going to be worked through it in order. The elevator's out there, and as it stands right now, the elevator probably installed January 24. We'll get through this for the summer. Kind of subject to change, depending how fast they can get it to us, but that's what we're looking at.
great. Thank you.
So if the elevator is 1.6, the rest is the bathroom?
Bathrooms.
That seems high.
Yeah, well,
600,000.
yeah, there's a lot involved because there's electrical that has to be moved around. There's ventilations that have ventilation that's requirement, out of code requirement stuff.
It's also not a typical bathroom. It's more of like a country club looking bathroom. And we had SHPO come in the original review, and they came in with some concerns and requests as to how to handle certain areas of the upstairs to try to make it so that it was historically significant, or you wouldn't notice necessarily that, we were in there doing a renovation.
Yeah, we're reusing the doors. There's areas we have to leave alone. We just got to freshen it up. So we had a little bit of workarounds.
I see. Okay.
All in favor? Did I move already?
You already moved it.
All in
Second.
second? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, thank you, Tiger and Bill.
Thank you.
Now we go to ice rink for a number of items.
Tom, you want to come up?
Tom
Gene?
and Jean. Partners in crime here.
Right.
Jean, you want to join us?
So these next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items are all associated with the rink. I'm joined by Tom O'Day and Gene Goodman. In answer to the question that came in earlier, the DPW won't be reimbursed for these costs. This is coming from a grant that NC Rink received, a $200,000 grant. The grant parameters state that the grant recipient is the town. We have to follow our town.
Is that the Boucher?
What?
Is it?
No,
Boucher Community Rink.
Well,
Boucher
Boucher
Community
Rink, sorry. The,
Yeah.
but the grant itself was
To NC Rink.
right. So the way it's written is that the town is the pass through. We have to follow our purchasing policy. So therefore, all these funds are, there's a $200,000 budget, and all these funds are coming from that budget itself. So it's not coming out of the DPW budget per se. We didn't have a line item for NC Rink, but each item will be reimbursed through that grant process. So the first item is the purchase of the resurfacer, an Olympia 2500 resurfacer for $30,000. I think it's self-explanatory. This was a used unit that is in very good shape that is being purchased from Thin Ice Management itself. Anything to add?
No, we're getting it at a discount. So literally, if we wanted to buy it and then resell it, NC Rink would actually make money. So,
Well, who's going to own this stuff if it's being paid for by the state grant?
well, NC Rink, we've already put down
Right.
$5,000.
Correct.
Okay.
So NC Rink, a nonprofit, which I want to make clear to anyone listening, we formed a nonprofit specifically to protect the town from any exposure of liability.
Music to my ears, Tommy.
Yes. So as an attorney, I'm very familiar with how to protect municipalities from any type of exposure. Gene Goodman, who's been active in procuring the best deal on insurance, we've made sure that the town has multiple layers of protection. And so the NC Rink will own this machine.
Where are you going to keep it?
So we've got a tent set up right now for it to be kept right next to the rink, which we went.
No, I mean in summer. Yeah.
Yes, it's going to be off-site it's not going to be visible. We're working on that. We have a couple of options on private property outside of town, but that's to be determined. We also we're hopeful that it'll be able to be done without any cost. But we have the money for that if it's necessary.
Great.
Just a quick question. So what does a new Olympia 2500 go for?
Over $100,000.
Is it really?
Wow.
Yeah.
This has been just recently refurbished,
Wow.
And refurbished.
opposed to just buying it used.
Gene, you're going to be driving this?
That's not in the plan, but you never know.
Well, it's not really a Zamboni, as you pull it behind a,
No, it's not a pull behind, it's self-powered.
oh, it is, okay.
It is
Right, okay.
It's a Zamboni-like, it's an Olympia, it's the same thing, but it's a different manufacturer.
We do have an older pull behind of tractor that was used at the Westport Hunt Club. I think it was called the Fairfield Hunt Club. Sorry. That did not do a good job with the rink. That was part of the problem that they had. They had a good rink set up, but they didn't have a resurfacer. So we've solved that problem with this resurfacer.
Which is again, self-powered. Theirs was tractor pulls. You needed a tractor. It wasn't as big either.
No,
That Zamboni is a trade name for another company.
It was
Yeah.
Olympia.
it's a competitor. There are different types of companies.
Ford versus Chevy.
John Deere.
Zamboni.
So,
Yeah, Zamboni was the inventor. Sorry.
Yeah.
so there's a video about the Olympia. I don't know if it's the 2500 or what have you, that actually caught fire. And just in the last 2 years in a small hockey rink. And are you comfortable with the safety of this particular unit?
I'm unfamiliar with that scenario.
Okay.
I will tell you that Thin Ice Management's been operating rinks for almost 26 years. And he's very confident in the safety of this unit. I will look into that.
Kind of an ironic name, Thin Ice.
Well, you want ice rink, you don't want thick ice. It's like that, right? There's no water.
At this rate, we're going to be here all day. We have
All right.
Right.
five.
Yeah. You want to move them all together, or you want to go?
I would move them all together. Just
All right, so
explain
the next one is actually the tent rental contract with Durant's Party Rental. It's a total contract of $18,945. It's 2 months of rental, and then we added a contingency month just in case. This is for both a 20 by 30 hospitality tent and a 16 by 16 tent for the Zamboni.
Okay. Any
Self-explanatory.
questions about the tents?
I will tell you, I was up there last night, as we were filling up the rink. It's very cold, so I'm very glad we got the tents.
Good.
The other sides on them, not just the top. Right?
Exactly.
Now
The,
Thin Ice Management is back.
The next is the actual contract with Thin Ice Management. It's broken up into two sections. One is the rink construction for 15,000 with a contingency of 5,000, and then the rink operations of $40,000 with a 15% contingency of 4,000 for a total of $64,000. As Tom mentioned, they've been doing this type of work for over 25 years at the Westport PAL rink at Longshore. I see no reason why we wouldn't go forward with the contract.
And again, all of this is coming from NC Rink.
That's correct.
In terms of future revenue, I mean, I'm assuming that the endowment that former Representative, Senator Boucher generously gave to the NC Rink will have a tipping point where, you know, you're going to have to go beyond that endowment. Is that correct? So
Yes.
where the future revenue is coming from?
So like the pool, or I should say, unlike the pool, we've raised from private funds and from the state grant enough money to cover all the capital expenditures. So we're going to be going into this without any debt. And so we are very confident with Gene's good leadership that all our operational revenue will cover operational expenses fairly easily. We're confident. So that, yes, we needed this infusion of cash to buy the equipment and get everything established. But now, even with these rentals, this will all be covered going forward with the operational revenue that we'll get. We haven't even had year one yet, unfortunately, but we ran into some other problems last year. But this year, thanks to Gene with his estimates, it was very conservative, as Gene is, and his numbers. We're very confident that the operational revenue will cover the operational cost with actually additional money.
Terrific. Thank you.
So just to clarify, so the tent, the contract with Thin Ice, the insurance and the electricity, those are all annual costs.
Yes.
And you have, is that correct?
The Zamboni is not the.
No.
Not the Zamboni, right?
Right.
Or not
4 out
the
of 5.
Olympia. It's an Olympia, right? So, but anyway, so those are annual costs, right? And you're comfortable that that's going to be covered every year, or do you have to go to the state for a grant every year?
We don't have to go to the state for
Okay.
grant every year.
Okay.
The like the pool, we're hoping to sell enough
To cover all
we
these
sell,
costs,
what,
yeah.
300 annual passes. We're comfortable.
Okay.
The insurance
Item is
package.
insurance with Schaff Darby Companies Incorporated for $15,000. It's an estimated cost to cover,
Liability.
among other things. Yes.
There's officers of DNO and workers'
D&O.
compensation in it as well.
Good.
And if for whatever reason, there's not enough money, we don't have to open. I mean, literally, it's a temporary rink that we store in a trailer. So if the town decides they don't like it, I think they're going to love it. But if for whatever reason we don't open, we don't have to open, and it doesn't cost anything.
Right. And then the last is the electricity cost. We're estimating $10,000 a month for $25,000. We added in a half-month contingency of $5,000 for a total of $30,000.
There's a separate meter for the,
Yeah. Right there. Sorry.
okay. Any question on any of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items?
Not here.
I move we approve all these 5 by 1 vote, as described by Tiger. Do I have a second?
Second here.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck with the rink.
Thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for all your efforts.
Yeah.
When's opening day?
We're hoping this weekend, ribbon cutting, and then, but it may be next week officially. You'll see on the webpage, ncrink.com.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, parcel K, who's presenting this? Me.
That's
The town council the other night, this is a small sliver of property that was left over from building the Cherry Street extension in the early 1970s. And the town council, I understand, really has no problem with the transaction itself. They raised some issues about property sales overall, which they're going to take up tomorrow night. I'll be there. And But in the meantime, we've already approved the purchase and sale agreement with the developer over there, Ventana 21 to 25 Burtis LLC, for a total price of $33,475. So I guess, oh, are we going to discuss this as far as, they're here for the executive sessions, not for, not for this item. Yeah. Well, and this actually is, parcel K was done by Doug, not by either Ira or Nick. Doug Lamonte. So, any questions about this item?
Just, why are we approving it again?
Because authorizing me to complete the transaction, and I'm not going to do it until after the town council obligation was to hold a public hearing, which they did and completed.
Right.
And so that process is done.
And so will they be voting on?
I don't think
This
they're
or not?
they're not required to vote.
Okay.
And I think we had a conversation yesterday with Christina Ross and Ira and Nick. So I think they may have a discussion tomorrow night about future transactions, but as far as this transaction, I don't think they have any reason to do anything further tomorrow night.
So their approval is not required with respect to the disposition of property.
Correct, based on the advice of Bertram Moses.
Okay.
So I move we approve this request to complete the sale of parcel K for a price of $33,475 to the developer as discussed. And
Is that right, Ira? You don't need town council approval, formal approval?
That is correct. The statute does not call for a vote. I think they want to vote, but it is not a requirement of the statute. They had a public hearing and they closed the public hearing. They're going to have their discussion, as Kevin indicated, tomorrow night. And either Nick or I will be there for that discussion. So I think they intend to vote, but it is not required and it would not be a binding action.
Well, I guess subject to the clarity on that, that's fine. I guess we're approving it again. Did we not approve?
no, we approved a purchase and sale agreement, right? This is
The purchase and sale agreement.
authorizing me to complete the sale, which had to be done. We had to have a final approval after the public hearing.
Okay,
So that's why we're doing
Okay.
this today. And I'll close this on Thursday
That's fine.
after the meeting tomorrow night with the town council. So
Are you moving it?
I just moved it.
Okay.
I thought,
second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That brings us to, why don't we put the full, oh, this is an appointment. That's why Albie's still here. And
Thank you.
and Jack Horner, you want to come up and present this? Hire of a full-time firefighter.
Hello again. So we have a upcoming retirement. Lieutenant Donnie Giswaldi, second generation firefighters, retiring after 22 and a half years on December 22nd is his last shift. So which would create a vacancy in the lieutenant rank, which will promote at sometime next year, beginning of the year, and which would leave a firefighter vacancy.
The commission interviewed 9 possible candidates, number of them from our own volunteer company, which is great. It came down to 1, so we're asking your permission to hire Garrett Cantrell as a full-time career firefighter. Garrett would be the 5th consecutive volunteer from our own department that we've hired. I think it's a testament to the strength of our combination department, and certainly to the effectiveness of our not only volunteer training, but the training that goes through the entire department. Garrett would begin in February. We need to have him registered and confirmed with the Fire Academy per the collective bargaining agreement. We have to do that by January, which is why we're in front of you now. He would start on Monday, February the 6th. He'd worked through Friday, February the 10th. He'd basically work a day shift, so he gets familiar with all the other firefighters. He starts right the following Monday morning at the academy on February the 14th. And lastly, he will be paid at the probationary salary level. So
And he's currently a volunteer.
I'm sorry.
He's currently a volunteer.
He's currently a volunteer.
So he knows all the other full-time firefighters already.
Yeah.
He knows the firefighters. It's just the week prior to get them ready for the academy with some of our operations and seeing it on a day-to-day basis versus the call-in perspective to the volunteers.
Okay, good. Further questions?
Looks great. I also agree. That's fabulous. When you can move people from the volunteer status to full-time, that's fabulous. Thank you.
And I agree with that. We've had great success with our PD and diversity initiatives. Are we looking from a firefighter standpoint to be more diverse going forward? I think that's important.
Very much so. It's part of what the commission looks at.
Good.
When we interviewed, there were a number of diverse candidates this time around. Garrett was the best candidate by far and away, but it is certainly part of our thought process.
That's the right answer, Jack.
That's why I made Beth Jones the first female fire
That's right.
commissioner. So
That's right. Yeah.
time.
And we do have a diverse group among our volunteer firefighters also. So,
Great.
you know, it's there.
And we know from experience that that's a path forward to full-time. Good. Thank you.
They certainly do a great job with the ambulance corps. So
yeah.
I move we approve the request from the chairman of the fire commission to hire Garrett Cantrell as a full-time firefighter for the New Canaan Fire Company as described by Albie and
Second here.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Have a great day. Okay, we have reappointments and appointments.
Are we missing police? Is that?
We have a number of boards and commissions to be completed by January 3rd, or we may not even be done by January 3rd. We don't have that many vacancies. But
Yeah, this is our last meeting, right? In December,
Hmm?
today.
who's meeting?
This meeting, Board of Selectmen.
We don't meet again until January 3rd. Right. Sure.
Kevin, if I may, on the Inland Wetlands Commission, the reappointment of Angela Jameson, Anthony Silo, Priscilla Woike. It says December 1, 2023. That actually should be December 1, 2024. Just that.
Any other corrections? Any of these you want to discuss? Got only 3 new members. You have the resumes on the tablets.
I do. I just, just as part of my process and policy, I like to spend time and talk with all of the candidates. And I know all of them, and a lot of everybody who's certainly been reappointed, I know all of them. There's 2 people who I don't know, and I have not had the opportunity. I didn't see this until yesterday. And unfortunately, I didn't have time to reach out to Doug Murphy or Tom Benton. So I will be abstaining from the vote this time.
Okay, sure. Any other questions? We just move these en banc to Conservation Commissions, EMS, Fire Commission, Parking Commission, Parks Recreation, Planning and Zoning, in the wetlands. I move we approve these appointments.
I second the motion.
All in
Karen.
favor? Aye, and you abstain.
With the 2 abstentions.
You're abstaining from the 2 you noted. Okay. Contracts under $10,000 on the tablets.
So that's just noting again that the Firematic supply is listed there, and that we can just take that out. Since we've already approved that. Those are my only comments.
Tucker, is that the case? I mean, that's a separate.
Albie's still here. Albie had originally submitted the request, as he explained, and then he further got received a bid that was less. So I believe then that they are duplicated, if that's what he said.
Well, we approved the items. I had already signed this contract, so, but this is the contract that we're operating under
Yeah.
at a lower price, you're saying?
Right, at a lower price.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay. Legal fees on the tablets. I move we approve the legal fees. If there's no questions.
No questions.
No
Second.
question. Second here.
All in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Tax overpayments, just some automobile overpayments there. I move we approve the overpayments for the items on our tablets.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Now we're going to go into executive session on 3 items, and it's really one executive session. So I suggest we discuss the part-time employees mainly in executive session because we have a list of employees that we want to discuss.
I certainly agree with the if we have a list, I haven't seen the list yet, but that I would recommend that we do an executive session for sure. Do want to talk about the approval process itself, though?
We can discuss that when we come out.
Okay, that's fine.
We also have Selectmen's comments and Utilities Commission as agenda items.
So my comments on COVID are that Connecticut, based upon today's newspaper, is seeing a spike developing after Thanksgiving.
So this is Selectmen's comments now? Because you're commenting.
I'm commenting.
Oh, okay.
That we're not seeing in New Canaan yet, but we probably will be seeing soon. We're continue to do testing Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for COVID testing, as well as rapid testing is available anytime at the health department by contacting them. We continue to do booster clinics on Thursday. I think it's our 60% booster rate that's keeping our COVID situation under control. It's actually not only COVID, but this respiratory and flu. So, and flu shots are also available at Irwin. So that's COVID. Guess that's all I have.
I'll just start first by saying good holiday wishes to everybody. This is our last meeting of the calendar year, and so I wish everybody a wonderful holiday, and thank you for all your good work, because you guys work so hard each and every day, and we just certainly I appreciate everything that you've done. So I wish you a wonderful holiday. Second, on the agenda, it'd be really helpful to maybe even know of a draft of the agenda before it's issued. That way we can give comments. I've used the opportunity to give notification about what I was hoping to see on the agenda. So just some back and forth, if you'd be so kind, to think about. Let's just touch base with the members of the Board of Selectmen about a draft agenda before it's actually published. That would be very helpful. That's kind of a New Year's wish, so if you will.
And as I said, getting the agenda together is very difficult.
I understand.
At the last minute. However, and we did do this last Friday, all of the materials for the meeting are always on your packet.
Yep.
So you had you did have the information for the 2 appointments on Friday. All of that was on the tablets. Now you didn't have the agenda. I understand that.
Yeah.
But we do try very, very hard to make sure that you have all the material over the weekend to review, even if the actual agenda. And our practice is always to get the agenda out on Friday before. Just this week, we had Board of Finance, Town Council, and Board of Selectmen all.
Totally get it. Yeah.
And quite honestly, closing early on Friday is a hindrance to us to get in the agenda done.
Yeah.
And then
so I'm talking like Wednesday, maybe if we knew it was on there.
We only have a draft by Wednesday.
Just if a draft would be awesome. So again, it's a New Year's wish. It's not. I know.
Yeah.
Okay.
If we're lucky to have it by Thursday.
Right.
So.
Okay. Anyway. Yeah, no, I understand. It's
Get added and get added on at the same time. I'm afraid if I was sending you a draft, then there would be a lot of questions about why is that off and this is
Yeah.
on. And
yeah, no, we're not that difficult.
Again, Friday was an unusual circumstance.
I totally get it. Yeah. And this is just an outstanding thing that it would be great if we got a little bit more of a heads up about what's going to be on the agenda. And then the last thing I had, and this was just a follow-up about the report. This is on the Bristow water testing. And sorry, we didn't get a chance to talk about this, but it just as a follow-up with the report that came out to the Conservation Commission about the water testing for phosphorus. There you are, John, behind me. It just can you just affirm with us that you're testing back, or you're talking with Chris Shipper about this particular topic?
John, come over to the microphone.
There's a phosphorus law for fertilizing of established grass. So there's two ways that you can use phosphorus. That is new seeding. And also if you have a soil test that shows a deficiency. We test all our fields. We send them out to a lab for what we have for deficiency or any element that's deficient. I looked back through the reports this morning. We have shown a small deficiency on the big field outfield. There has
At Mead Park.
At Mead Park. Over the last few years, there's been one application that contained a very small amount of phosphorus. Other than that, the only time we put down any phosphorus products at Mead Park has been when we've done some sodding or seeding of the infield only now. So,
okay.
So
you've had
their levels of phosphorus they're showing doesn't surprise me. It's a large area that drains through Mead Park.
And coming down from the neighborhoods up above. It's really private property. So
there's been a lot of construction.
Yeah.
So, but in general, phosphorus is naturally occurring at levels that is fine for grass growth. And it's not a law that's a problem to us.
Okay.
So.
And you've connected with Chris about that, or? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
So I have no comments other than to follow up on Kathleen's comment, thanking the folks at Town Hall for it's been a long year. But I really want to thank the department heads and all the folks who work here and other locations in town for their commitment and dedication, hard work and effort. God bless you. Thank you. Stay the course.
So we have our holiday party on Thursday. And I thank my employees every week. So
yeah, great.
Okay. As far as you want to present what you want to present on the other comments about the
utilities?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So Kevin, as you know,
there's an ordinance.
Yeah.
Right.
Chapter 12 of the town ordinances, which is, codified by the legislative branch of New Canaan, which is town council. You two both served on that, and it provides for a utilities commission and putting aside the legalities of this, I do think that when the town council speaks or continues to speak, because this is still good law, we should repopulate and reinvigorate the Utilities Commission. You've done some great things on your own, Kevin. I've commended you for Elm Street, the property at Elm Street, which was really kind of a one-man band, if you will. And I think it was monetizing a 99-year, whatever it was, long-term lease was a good effort. And I commend you for that. But
what does that have to do with utilities?
Well, it gets to the point that, with respect to cell phone towers, you've kind of taken that, and I think you said this publicly, you've kind of taken that under your wing.
Well, I have, because, Tom Teslick resigned the day after the election in 2017.
Right. And you keep talking about Tom Teslick. He was a member of the Utilities Commission. So
he was the chairman, and he was the only member who knew anything about cell towers.
What is your opposition to having an independent Utilities Commission populated by very bright people in town? We've got 20,000 people in this town. Surely, in fact, I know 2 or 3 by name who would have come to me and said, I would like to be part of a utilities commission. And certainly if you look at the statute, it would encompass cell phone tower usage.
Well,
and I think it's helpful. It would be helpful to us as a board of selectmen and you as the first selectman to have that advice given to you by outside.
Okay. Well, first of all, I remind you, when Rob took office,
It's always about Rob and
when Rob took office, the Board of Selectmen changed the mission of the Utilities Commission. And then when it was pointed out to you that you didn't have the authority to do that, the town council did not do that, that it reverted to what is a very old mission, right? And I've said before, I and Tucker and Tiger and others, Russ, work with the utilities all the time. We have ongoing relations with them. So the former mission of the
you said the word I, meaning you.
Tiger,
okay,
Tucker,
Tiger is an employee. Tucker is an employee. I did nothing against Tucker Tiger, but I'm just saying.
Let me finish.
We've got an ordinance that we're not following.
That ordinance
and you're always very careful about populating the various commissions and committees and such. And this is just lying fallow. We actually still have 3 members on the commission. Okay. According to what the research that I've done.
Exactly. So I did nothing to disband. They still sit there. The only problem is the mission that was created 25 or 30 years ago is not a proper mission. That should go back to the town council, right? I checked with all the other surrounding towns in terms of nobody has a utilities commission that does that, which is 30 years old thinking. So I'm fully in support of having the town council take a look again at what the mission is and updating it. But we don't have the authority to do that. The current mission is not what I
think the mission is pretty broad.
You don't have
Kevin.
the authority.
I'm not going to. You and I are both lawyers. We can sit here all day and argue about the mission.
We don't have the authority to change the mission because it's an ordinance. And
so you've just admitted that there is still a utilities commission.
Yeah, but
there's 3 members,
and they're free to meet. They're free to meet under that very outdated mission, which doesn't include.
I would respectfully disagree. I think I'm reading the statute. I think it's pretty broad. I think it would encompass cell phone towers, which I am increasingly coming to the belief that these are antiquated things. 150 foot tall mono poles or whatever you call it. For my purposes, seems to be outdated. We got technology now where iPhones are going to have satellite capability. I think we need, but I don't know this for a fact because I'm not an expert. And I think there are experts in town that we can get volunteers to.
So the siting council last Thursday approved the 1837 Ponus Ridge Tower, right? That was done in record time. From the time a lease was signed, it was 2 years to get it approved by the siting council, right? That is a necessary piece of infrastructure. We fought for years to get a public safety tower. Stuart Salvini.
We did fight for years, but my concern is that technology is going much faster.
Now for public safety radio. I mean, that's why Russ was here and
I understand that.
Right?
I understand.
So we need.
But we're talking about West School. Okay.
We're talking about West School and the fact
and other poles that you want to put up. At least one other site that we've discussed.
Well, hey Nick, the report that Tom Teslick prepared, which you at the time endorsed as an excellent plan,
which was years ago, Kevin. Okay, my point is we can't be chasing technology. We should be on technology or ahead of technology.
Okay, you think?
And what I would like to do is to convene, is to repopulate a commission that I think can do some really good in town by educating me, by educating you and Kathleen and town council and others with respect to where we are. What is the most feasible, expeditious way to get cell phone service? Okay. Is it is it 150 foot monopole? Maybe it is. I don't know.
Oh, it is.
But I don't want to.
Well, again, the 2 major
rely on just you and Tiger and
rely upon Verizon and AT&T, right? I mean,
why would I necessarily realize it?
No, others will criticize these national carriers, right? They're the 2 national carriers, right? Verizon came forward. Surprised me because they haven't done anything in 5 years in New Canaan. They've been trailing AT&T, but they want to spend $500,000 to improve their service. AT&T is going to be on that tower, $500,000. These companies don't spend their money unless it's necessary to improve their service.
And to be clear,
Again, you have.
I'm not coming out against the West School Tower. What I'm coming out for is the reconstitution of the Utilities Commission.
I think we should refer to the town council to update their.
Yeah, so I agree. There are two different points that I think we're discussing here. One is the Utilities Commission, and the second is obviously the cell tower and the options. And more broadly speaking, in the website, our website addresses what the mission is, what we do as a Utilities Commission. And I think it's pretty broad, and I think it's
very outdated compared to other towns.
So I have looked into other towns as well, and there.
Let's have that discussion when we've
So I
all
think
done our.
that would be a
research.
great
Yeah.
idea, Kevin. And I would just suggest that let's put this on as a project that we work with members of the town council. They have a utilities group or that we can talk with. And then, as we've done with the audit committee and the ethics board, this is a great topic to take up with members of the town council, you know, whether it's Nick or I, or let's work on making sure that all the good reasons for, I think we should be reconstituting the Utilities Commission are then brought before the town council with all the information, with the comparisons of other towns that are doing that. And I have looked into that. So I'd say probably by the next meeting in January, or
I think the town council has to take this up.
Right. We have to present to the.
That's an outdated mission.
All the more reason that we
Yep.
should be working together to figure
Yeah.
that out. So
Right.
I agree
we-
with that. So let's as a Board of Selectmen embrace the opportunity to evaluate this and bring it before the town council.
Sure. Okay.
Delighted to hear Kevin, that you're in favor of
Updating.
updating and
Updating
reconstituting
right.
the Utilities Commission. That's
Right,
music to my
exactly.
ears. Thank
Right,
you very
okay.
much.
Never said I was opposed to that.
Okay.
We're all in agreement.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to go to executive session and we will keep in here Lynn, Tiger, Cheryl, because we have multiple subjects to discuss under real estate negotiations and also Tucker, who else? And who's on the, and Nick are on the